Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Many of you guys know that I'm a huge fan of functional beverages. And functional beverages are beverages that offer more than just hydration. They provide maybe unique herbs or different nutrients in them that really help support our overall performance. And an interesting one that I found is a company called Flying Embers. It is a better for you alcohol brand that brews hard kombucha and probiotic-powered hard seltzer. They combine whole plant botanicals, adaptogens, probiotics, and superfoods, all the kinds of stuff that we really enjoy and love to talk about here on the podcast. And I have got one of the co-founders, Beryl Jacobson. He's Chief Business Developer, and he's going to share his story, his health journey, how they founded this company, and the unique benefits that these products have. And I know I've really enjoyed them. My family and I drink them, and they're just really, really great. So, Beryl, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's start with your health story and how you got into this sort of industry.
Yeah, so I'll try to give it in a couple of minutes because for me, I think it starts at 8 years old. So, and I'm currently 52. So, it really started as a kid and the late 70s with a mom who wanted to be healthier and introduced to the family what is now called a plant-based diet, but being vegetarian. And I was all on board for it. I was ready for to do something different. And as everybody knows who's been on a health journey, whether it's vegetarian or whatever it is, part of that is learning a lot and answering a lot of questions by people who don't understand what it is. As a kid, be that somebody making fun of you and then having to have a quick-witted answer to be able to put them in place. So learned a lot about health, my own health, and just the food industry as a whole as I grew up. I was a vegetarian on and off. I say on and off because I was also vegan. I also, had a little bit of fish here and there for about 27 years. So that's a big part of the health journey, is just learning about my body and learning about what goes in it, and just became a true believer in, what you put in your body is the ultimate way to health. And, that evolved over time. And I'm now more of an omnivore and follow close to a keto diet, low carb, high fat. But really it evolved into sort of a belief in bioindividuality, which to me, that means that everybody's different. Everybody's body is different, and everybody is different at different times in their life. What's best for them, maybe even different times of the year. So that health journey arced with my studies in environmental studies, UC Berkeley, studied in different elements of environmental studies and ecology. And then being an entrepreneur, I just totally passionate. Business is one of my passions, and one of the things I've been doing for 20 years is starting different businesses, and they culminated into sort of the better for you business and food, teas, eventually beverages. So that's sort of the short version of how health, got me to be part of co-founding a better for you alcohol company, which I never would have thought, earlier in my life that I'd be a co-founder of an alcohol company because of all of the, the elements of alcohol and health. They don't necessarily, make sense. And that's kind of why it's sort of the final frontier in some ways of the better for you movements. If you think about a grocery store and the different parts of the grocery store in the aisle, and then maybe it starts in the supplements, and in the outside in the actual real produce or real organic meats, eventually it made its way into other beverages, non-alcohol beverages, functional beverages, and then even into other things like different ways to eat, chips and things like that, even protein cookies and things like that. I think alcohol is kind of like the final frontier. Like, if we're making something, how can we make it better? And that just opens up a whole world once you just ask that question. So,
Yeah, it's so good. I have an interesting, and similar story too, where I grew up, and for years I was vegetarian. I actually got sick. I developed irritable bowel doing that. Modified my diet to a nutrient-dense omnivore diet, particularly more of a keto style diet, and I was able to really regain my health. So, very similar journey as far as that goes. And it's one of the things that I like about your guys' products is that they are no grams of sugar, no carbs, because, being in the natural health industry, of course, kombucha came onto the scene probably, 15 years ago, and just really grew from there. But I actually never felt that good drinking your typical kombuchas from the store, even though they had superfoods and adaptogens in them. And that was because they were spiking my blood sugar. They always had a lot of sugar in them.
That's right.
And obviously, when you ferment them down to where all the sugar is eaten up by the bacteria and they produce the alcohol, obviously, it takes away the sugar impact and does increase alcohol. And we do have to obviously be careful about how much alcohol we consume. But, as just having a little bit of that with meals, it's not going to impact your blood sugar. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about these is having a small amount with meals. I get these superfoods and these adaptogens in without the blood sugar impact. And, it's really one of the great benefits there. And so
that is a big differentiator for what we do. I mean, that was definitely early on. Sorry to interrupt if you wanted to.
No, can you talk about your process and like what inspired you guys to take kombucha in particular and make a actual shelf stable hard kombucha?
Yeah. Well, the origin of us starting with a kombucha, because sort of we have more than just kombucha now of a hard kombucha. We have hard seltzers. We in our tap rooms, which we also have beer that we make with different types of functional ingredients like mushrooms and things like that. And we look at ourselves really as an innovation company that's looking to explore all the different categories and create the best tasting, the most flavorful, the most functional version that could be made in all the different categories. But the reason we started with kombucha was because my partner, the founder, Bill Moses, he was part of another company called Kavita. And Kavita was one of the other large kombucha companies that got early into kombucha. They actually started with that.
It is similar to kombucha, but it's coconut water kefir. Right?
So they actually have 3 lines.
Do they?
So they actually have 3 lines. So they started, their original was the kefir, which is really unique and different. And it kind of, because of that, they already had the mindset around, alcohol wasn't really a part of it, because then the kombucha, as you know, or many people don't know, kombucha, just the natural fermentation process creates alcohol, as you began to say. And early on, 7 years ago, there was an issue of like how much, and it's still to this day, actually, how much alcohol is actually in your non-alcohol kombucha. Because if it has sugars, they will continue to ferment.
Right.
In fact, often it might be sort of legal to be below the certain amount of alcohol allowed to be non-alcohol. You go and you start driving and it's in the sun and you're sitting there and the sugars are fermenting and the alcohol starts growing, and it actually might pass that limit. Kavita was one of the first ones there to have super control of how much alcohol was in it.
Yeah.
They had the coconut kefir, had the kombucha, as well as an apple cider vinegar tonic. So 3 different lines, but really learned a lot about the control. And it's kind of funny is that, some of the founders of a kombucha company that was kind of became famous for controlling the alcohol, they would then go ahead and let it go and actually let it flourish and actually create, the best alcohol version of the same thing. So, Kavita, Bill, moved on from Kavita. And this was sort of the aha was, hey, we've been trying to control the fermentation. What happens if we actually encourage the fermentation, allow the alcohol to get higher? And how can we create, the next generation of kombucha, sort of in some ways returning to what it really is meant to be, and in other ways looking towards the future and what could it be?
Yeah.
And so from that pedigree, that experience, all that, decade of learning about the ferment, learning how to craft that SCOBY, which is the combination of the bacteria and yeast that makes kombucha to be the most smooth tasting version, and how can we bring that into the alcohol world? And our first versions had some sugar in them, and because of that, they wouldn't be shelf stable, because a lot of the stability has to do with, the meaning, so for those who don't know, shelf stable just means, can it be at room temperature? Does it have to be refrigerated? And many of the kombuchas need to be refrigerated because they have all this fermentable sugars in them. And if they, like I said, if you take them to room temperature, they'll start fermenting, alcohol goes higher. The bacteria, then the probiotics start opening up and blossoming, and all the benefits start waning. And so, like I said, we're an innovation company. So we start looking at it deeper and deeper, and we realize that, well, not only for our own health benefits, not only for our own personal choice are we wanting to remove sugar and carbs from our life, but how can we encourage the fermentation to go all the way, like a brute, actually take the fermentation like a great wine all the way to zero, if that's the kind of wine you enjoy, and get to zero sugar, zero carbs, which would allow us to actually be shelf stable, be able to be at room temperature. Again, we still want it cold. We still want to enjoy it. It tastes best when it's on ice or just a cold can pulled out of a refrigerator or out of a tap handle. But that it can withstand much higher temperatures when there's not a fermentable sugar, and be better for you. So
yeah, for sure. And I remember back before they really had any sort of, I guess, regulations on kombucha. I remember, I don't know if it was like 2007, 2008. I was in graduate school and I walked into my Whole Foods, and I used to always get kombucha. And then all of a sudden one day they took all of them off the shelf, and they were like, and the employees there were like, they're like regulating their alcohol content and this and that. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So regulations is a whole other topic. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's meant for all of our benefit. It's and it just depends on what the particular regulation, and sometimes it takes time to catch up to what's being innovated, right? And that was one of those moments where it's like a new beverage, learn about it, then we had to regulate, and then
the product was getting so popular.
Then innovate.
The product was getting so popular, and it had small amounts of alcohol in it, and people didn't know it, and it wasn't, advertised obviously on the bottle. So they had to pull it and kind of re-regulate it and get more controls over how they were fermenting it. Well, let's talk about, really how this company got going, because I know there's a story about how it was founded during these fires. In California, in Southern California, there's been some terrible fires that have been taking place over the last several years. And you guys lost your brewery, is that correct?
Almost. Yeah. So it was really a transformative moment. We had been brewing and doing R&D in Ojai, California, and where many of us live who started the company. And that was the time of what was then the largest wildfire in California history at the time, was the Thomas Fire. Sad thing is that it's now been surpassed multiple times in just a short 3 years. So we were doing all of our R&D. We had our brewery there. It was in a 100-year-old wine cave. It was all the ferments and the mother culture. And the Thomas Fire started up in Upper Ojai and began to sweep down towards where the property was or is. And many of the teams stayed behind enemy lines, behind evacuation lines to protect the home and what we like to say for the mother culture and all the ferments and everything that we've been working for. And as a team, and stayed behind for 3 days watching the fire get closer and closer and closer. And it's a dramatic and very real story for many people who felt, right then and there that they were potentially going to lose their lives and their families. And it was like, what are we fighting for? But a realization beyond all the personal realizations that are of gratitude and appreciation for one another, for nature, but really a huge gratitude to the firefighters and all the first responders that were actually putting their lives on the line, and how they do that everywhere, every day. And they're kind of like these unsung heroes, because they're sort of just there, and then they show up when needed, and then they're gone again. And so it just was, while we're 100%, we're an organic company where we reuse our own CO2. We're the only hard kombucha company that reuses our own CO2. I mean, so we're very environmentally conscious. Like, again, source all of our ingredients. Again, like I said, organic. And you would think for any of these companies like this, that's the purpose, is environmental awareness, and my background. But this was like a unique experience to us. And we just decided at that moment, to name our company sort of after this experience, in the moment, in that final night, that the sky was filled with these embers, that, one of them alone is so innocuous. It's just this beautiful little thing, but it lands, and where it lands, it could just be that, or it could actually spark something that could be devastating. So the power of such a simple thing, that it could be a decision moment in time for you. It kind of had a symbolic nature to us as well, when you're taking a bottle as well, and you're every choice you get, right? This could be a choice for how you live your life. And we all have those every day in many ways. So it felt like a really powerful name, but really it also connected to this experience. And because of that, we also dedicate a 1% of our income and our revenues to first responders and firefighters. We actually started our own Embers Foundation, a 501c3, and it's very real for us, and we've been able to help a lot. We do that locally wherever we sell our product. We help out. So we showed up in Talent, Phoenix, Oregon. There was fires there, Northern California, and Napa, and Colorado. I mean, unfortunately, there's problems and disasters all over. In Texas, when that happened, the freeze, we were able to help feed 1,000 families. So it just it gave us something to connect to, and to connect to our communities, and to just show up where for those who showed up for us. So,
well, it's an inspiring example of conscious capitalism, where you guys are donating a percentage of your profits into, basically something.
Percentage of revenue, not profits.
Oh, okay, of your revenue. Yeah, 1% of your revenue. And into something that's obviously saving lives, saving communities, and obviously helped save your company as well. And that inspired the name Flying Embers. Yeah, really, really interesting. Yep. And so let's talk about kind of the process of forming these hard kombuchas and seltzers and stuff. With kombucha, I know we start with the SCOBY, and for those people that don't know, SCOBY actually is an abbreviation for symbiotic colony of yeast or of bacteria and yeast, right? Yeah. That's basically what it is. Some people will call it a pancake. It's almost like a big mushroom kind of thing.
That's the myth is that it's a mushroom, because it sure as heck looks like something you've never seen before. It's, I think, an easy way for people to understand how kombucha is, like, because beer is the most consumed alcohol beverage. And so for those who know how to make beer, and that's kind of simple, is, the malt, which is a grain, sugar, and water, right? And then yeast to ferment that malt. And then perhaps, maybe some flavor that can come from a fruit or what have you. And kombucha is kind of similar, right? So we have organic cane sugar as the fermentable, and tea, right? And hops. I'm sorry, the number one most famous of all that makes beer, hops. Yeah. So instead of hops, we have tea,
right?
And so black, green tea. We use a black tea, and So you got your malt or sugar. So that's the two common. And then you have hops. We use tea, right? And then when there's the one difference is the bacteria and these unique beneficial bacteria that go, because we both use yeast. We use a champagne yeast that helps stimulate that fermentation really fast to help it get all the way dry, and water. And so it's not unlike the process there, except for you have that uniqueness of the bacteria and yeast that do their dance to create these unique organic acids. Again, I told you, before we started, I was joking, I'm not the science guy, but I know how some of the magic happens. So.
Yeah, and organic acids really are underrated. Most people in the nutrition world don't really talk about them, but you have organic acids that really support microbiome health and help keep inflammation under control. They help to stimulate the vagus nerve for better digestive juice production. So fermented beverages in general they offer a lot of great benefits in that way, and kind of like what we're talking about here. And then you guys also put in different superfoods and
absolutely. So that's sure, I could talk about that a little bit as well. So in order to elevate the alcohol levels, there's only so much that the alcohol will get on that first sort of primary fermentation. So there's sort of an ongoing secondary fermentation that often is just a common. All of our everybody else who would make a hard kombucha to elevate that with their alcohol will just add more sugar, more yeast, and just keep that fermentation going, create more alcohol. We've taken a little bit different approach, and with ours, we actually infuse it with adaptogens. So I'm sure you could speak eloquently about different adaptogens and what those are. But they come in different forms, be those roots or botanicals of different varieties. If you want to share with your listeners.
And I mean, adaptogens, basically what that actually means, it helps you adapt to your environment. It's almost like a thermostat. So if the outside temperature is 80 degrees, but you want it to be 70 degrees in your home, it's going to turn on the air conditioning, right? And cool the home environment. If the outside environment's 60 degrees, it's going to turn on the heat to get it up to 70 degrees. So your body is always trying to create balance in your immune regulation, balance in your blood circulation, balance in energy production. And this is the great thing about these herbs. They have compounds called terpenes and tannins and different things like that help modulate or balance our physiology. And this is what's allowed these herbs and these roots and different things like that to survive all the different geographical stressors, all the different microbes that are trying to eat them, the extreme heat, sometimes extreme cold. So all these geographical stressors, the plants are adapting to them. And then when we consume those compounds, they confer those benefits over to us. So you have things like ginseng and ashwagandha and rhodiola and these different herbs that are renowned for their ability to create balance. And the way that we experience that balance is better energy, better mood, sharper thinking process, better memory, improved sleep quality, better immune regulation, right? Things like that. And so utilizing these and getting these things into your diet, and, for so long, especially in the Western societies, we forget about herbs, right? We're eating proteins and fats and carbs, but so many people go throughout their, days and weeks with consuming little to no herbs with these sort of beneficial compounds in them. So again, these things are really powerful, really help us adapt to the stressors in our environment.
So for everyone that you've mentioned, and many more, like reishi mushrooms, and ginger, turmeric, and pretty much everyone that you could find, we've brewed with and fermented, and done different releases with. But our core, every single hard kombucha that we make, every one that you can consume, every single one that you can purchase, has. So in that secondary fermentation, we actually ferment 3 roots: ginseng, ginger, and turmeric, along with that ongoing ferment. And what's really cool about that is that, there's this dual extraction that takes place. So, we've all probably had some ginger tea. So that's a water extraction, right? And so we put them, and that's what happens. We put them into that tea, really, of the ginger, ginseng, and turmeric with the sugar and the champagne yeast, and it has an extraction right then and there. And as the temperatures rise and the fermentation begins and the alcohol starts being created, you end up with a secondary fermentation. We've all, at some point been, either to prevent being sick or busy, you maybe went to the health food store, you got some echinacea or something, and it was in an alcohol, right, dropper. And that's because it could help extract some of these unique elements that you were just speaking of from these roots or botanicals. And so we decided that it would not only, provide a unique and round and full flavor that could give us what we were looking for to create the best tasting beverage as our sort of core base, kombucha base, but that it actually has all these other elements that it brings to the beverage. Some, I'm sure many of your listeners know about the benefits, or even take curcumin, which is an extract of turmeric, or actually use ginseng or ginger for their different qualities, that be they inflammation, or you could list off many of them, of each of those three. And so that greater tasting beverage also has this great sort of equalizer, because you have alcohol, which we know has other elements that are not necessarily great for your body, dehydration, and other elements. The positives being mood enhancement and social lubricant, and just that stress relaxer elements of it, but having these other elements in there to kind of create this great beverage. And again, when you start adding in the super fruits and really getting those flavors going, then we think we have something that's worth sharing.
Yeah, I think that's so great. So your base that's really in all of your kombuchas has 100%. Fermented ginseng, ginger, and turmeric, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's 100% of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. So ginseng is one of the best things for energy and brain function, improving mood, memory enhancement, sleep quality, right? Things like that. Ginseng's amazing for that. Ginger is really good anti-nausea. Also, on top of that, really good for overall digestive health, reduces inflammation, especially in the gut, and actually helps stimulate liver detoxification, which when we're talking about alcohol, we got to go through that process, right? We need to have good quality liver function. So it's helping your body process that alcohol more effectively. And then turmeric is one of the best things for reducing inflammation in the body, particularly all throughout the whole body, systemic inflammation. So we talk about joint pain, different things like that. Turmeric also has really powerful anti-cancer benefits too, and blood sugar regulation benefits. So you're really hitting a lot of key and needed benefits that people have with those three herbs, and utilizing that as the base. And then you have different flavors too. Like I really like the black cherry, right? And so are you guys using real black cherry in that?
Yeah. So we used, depending on the different fruit, we'll use, unique extracts, all organic extracts generally. And again, to make sure that the sugar levels, we can control the sugar, we'll use the extracts in different forms, be they a unique flavor or powder, to be able to keep the sugar levels down, but still have the essence of that fruit. We have many grapefruit and combined with thyme, and something, we have chili. We play a lot with this sort of sweet and heat combo, which I think is really, really cool. It's we have pineapple chili, and we have watermelon and chili, and guava and jalapeno, and just how they interact with each other is really great. So
that's awesome. What have you guys heard as the fan favorite flavors?
Oh, that I have a hard time always answering, but I think because I think what I think is, again, pineapple chili. I mean, you have to go back also to ginger alone, just as an original flavor, right? Ginger, just extra ginger, that extra heat. People are kind of used to that. I think for many people, many parts of the country, even just having a ginger beer, that's sort of a common thing. And sometimes whether it's a ginger ale, and you might think of it when you're not feeling well. I always joke as well as like when you're flying, it seems to be the place that people have ginger ale. But ginger beer is like been, traditionally it's been used for all kinds of things. And it's also tastes great. It's the base of a lot of cocktails are actually made with ginger, Moscow Mule. So people are familiar with it from a cocktail side as well. You get into the grapefruits, and you start thinking about palomas and having that experience like that. Grapefruits also, you want to feel more healthy, or you worked out, you want to eat, a big grapefruit. So the combinations, I think that's really fun here is that some of the greatest fruits and herbs and botanicals and bitters, they all have this element of creating the most vitality in our life. And they also, you find them at the bar. And this goes back, hundreds, if not thousands of years. You go back to people enjoying, a really unique, whether it's a very modern, extreme craft cocktail, or you start going back to different parts of the world where they make unique cocktails, and they would make them with unique bitters, unique herbs, unique botanicals, unique superfruits around the world. So like I like to say is like, in some ways we're really not doing anything new. We're returning to something that has been done before. But now the beauty is that we have the modern capabilities to actually have the highest quality ingredients, have control of how much of that ingredient we're going to use to get the desired effect, and then create consistency so that when you go buy a Flying Embers and you get your favorite flavor, right? Guava, citra, drink at a certain ABV, a certain amount of alcohol, that, and you feel confident when I want to share with your friend, it's going to taste, pretty darn close, to what you've always dreamed and loved. So
and
that's kind of a modern twist on it.
What's the typical alcohol percentage? It's like 4.5 to 7, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think so. We kind of separated it into two lines in some ways. Like 4.5% is our low, 85 calories. Again, 0 sugar, 0 carbs. So it's kind of light and lively, easy to drink. And then, and then we are up there in the 6.9, 6.8, 7. We have a few that we really push up higher to 8.5 for that, that full effect. But on the average, right around 6.9 is our average for most to get the best botanical buzz, as we like to say.
Yeah, for sure. And then you guys also have hard seltzers as well.
Do. Yeah, again, all organic hard seltzers, and we follow sort of across everything. Again, 0 sugar, 0 carb. Again, we make them with superfruits and botanicals, and really just look for the most. It's a very popular new beverage that's sort of emerged. I think there's this general experience that people are having all over the world that are looking to be healthier, be more alive, and what ways can we do that? I think the seltzer phenomena that's happening is people looking at how to remove things that are harmful. So remove the sugars, right? Remove the carbs. And the next evolution is well, okay, now we've pulled everything out. Okay, things don't taste as good as they used to, and that doesn't have to be that way. So the next wave of better for you is going to be, well, what can we put back in? And that's kind of the wave that we find that table stakes. Yeah, we've dry ferment, we get the carbs out, we do it, we got you covered there, but we really specialize in what can we put back into it? What can we really craft that to be, again, best tasting and have the greatest effect. So,
it's key. Most people don't realize like how much sugar and oftentimes a lot of artificial flavorings and things like that are in your pina coladas and your
cocktails are notorious for, if they had to put a label on a cocktail and you had to slide it across the table on your napkin when you get a cocktail. I mean, many people don't consume that much sugar in an entire day, and if you're at all conscious about what you put in your body, I mean, you might not have consumed that much in a week. So I mean, you're definitely in the 30s, 40s, 50s, grams of sugar. So,
and when you take in sugar like that, physiologically, it actually slows your liver down. So you're not able to detoxify the alcohol as well. So taking it in instead without the sugar, with 0 grams of sugar, and then with fermented herbs that help support your liver, allows your body to deal with that alcohol. So it has a minimally toxic effect on your body. So this is a way to get the benefits of alcohol. Like you mentioned, a lot of people don't really realize this. We just think about alcohol and we think taboo, but there is great stress relieving benefits to alcohol that we can still enjoy. It's relieving stress, reducing stress, improving mood is, a key concept when it comes to overall health. I mean, certainly you don't need alcohol to do that, but utilizing alcohol from time to time, we don't want to necessarily depend on it for it, but utilizing it from time to time in a social setting or just, after, just to relax, can be very beneficial if we do it properly without all the sugar, without all the artificial flavorings, and then utilizing it when it's combined like you guys have, making it a really powerful functional alcoholic beverage. We get those stress reducing benefits along with all the other benefits of these types of herbs, and we can really enjoy that.
Yeah. Thanks. Well said. I mean, that's what we do. Yeah.
Well, this has been a great interview, Beryl. And, we're really diving obviously into this sort of topic and turning people on to these functional beverages, these functional alcoholic drinks. Is there any last words that you want to share with our audience? How can they find out more about Flying Embers and sure. company?
Yeah, I mean, so Flying Embers, we're currently in over 40 states in the United States as well as Canada. Obviously, there's, like everyone, flyingembers.com is an easy way to learn a lot about us. If you follow us on Instagram or any social, Flying Embers Brew is generally the handle. And we have tap rooms. I think that's a really, if you're fortunate enough to be near any one of them, we have one in LA, Santa Barbara, opening one in Boston, and in some other cities coming really soon. What's really exciting is that we're actually able to interact with people and have these kinds of conversations over the bar. And we're taking our kombucha and our seltzers, and we're actually making full cocktails with them. We're, fermenting at the bar and making shrubs and dehydrating our own fruits and really showing how, we can still create, 0 sugar cocktails and infuse them with, all these flavors, and you can have a full experience. And so that's the ultimate way to be able to really experience it. But again, pretty much if you're able to find it in a store or order it online, and just get it cold, drink it, share it with a friend, use it as a mixer, and just kind of experience it. I think that's kind of the entryway, and sometimes this might be the first way that somebody learns about an adaptogen or about probiotics or about them, and that's kind of a thrill to be able to play that part as well. So
yeah, so good. So guys, if you're looking for an alcoholic beverage that has these sorts of powerful superfood adaptogenic herbs in it that taste great, 0 grams of sugar, gluten-free, vegan, all those types of benefits.
Check.
And yeah, exactly. It has probiotics as well as support your gut, your immune system. Then definitely check it out, flyingembers.com. And if you put in the coupon code Jockers at checkout, that'll save you 15% off as well. So definitely check that out and look out. Stay tuned to their website, get on their email newsletter. That way you'll know when they have a brewing studio coming out near you in your town, right? Yeah. All right, great. Well, thanks so much for your time. And guys, we'll see you on a future podcast. Be blessed, everybody.